And now for today's City of Light, we've prepared a special program, a documentary detailing the world of gayagum, a traditional string instrument dating back over 1,500 years. Now, this documentary was by Kim Mi-young and is supported by the Foundation of Broadcasting Culture. And without further ado, here's the deep moans of the gayagum, Bellow for the World.
An old man who looks to be way past 80 years of age starts strumming the strings. His stiff fingers keep trembling as he tries to move his bent knuckles.
I'm sorry. Playing technique is not good anymore. I'm sorry.
What is he sorry for? He keeps apologizing, bringing down his fingers, barely hanging from the strings. An 80-year-old man, staring at gayagum on his lap, is looking away to the mountain far away. This man is a veteran gugak scholar. His name is Heyman, who has spent 60 years of his life as a Korean. His American name is Alan Heyman. He is one of the American medical troops that had fought in the Korean War. He still vividly remembers the brutal winters of Gwangju, with the temperatures dropping down below 20 degrees Celsius. When night fell on the battlefield, the Chinese Communist Party used to beat the drums or gongs to disturb the sleep of the South Korean U.S. combined forces.
Well, I was here in 1953 with the U.S. Army as a medical soldier. The Chinese Army and Bachisan, the Korean communist soldiers, used to play music on the mountain at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I heard the first time the Taepyeong, but I didn't understand about music that time. So I went back to Columbia University in New York, my hometown. I met the Korean student, and I said to him, and he said, from 5,000 years ago, we had all kinds of musical instruments and music. Well, he said, if you're really interested in Korean music, you should go now because we never know when the North Korean army will attack again. I cannot go now because civilian could not go to Korea at that time.
The Korean War came to an end without any official cessation of the war, as only an armistice was declared between the two Koreas. However, Heyman feared that Korean traditional music might soon fade away.
At that time, my house was in Insadong, and there was a Kugak-Yesulhakyo, Korean Musical Arts Conservatory. So I went there, and I said to the principal, I will teach English if I can study Korean music here. And he said, yes, okay, you can study all kinds of Korean music. That's how I began to study Korean music.
He couldn't stop thinking about coming back to Korea, and he finally did in the year 1960, when he was only 28 years old. The traditional Gugak art school where Heyman chose to study was formerly the National Traditional Art High School. This was when he attained his first Gugak education as an English teacher and a student at the traditional Gugak art school.
At that time, there was no akbo, so I had to make my own musical score. And I learned court music gayagum and sanjo. My teachers couldn't speak English, and I didn't understand Korean well. I met famous gayagum player Sung Kum-yeon, Yu Dae-bong, who was my teacher.
A 2-meter-tall gentleman with blonde hair. Heyman earned his nickname of an American who is crazy about Gugak. Gayagum Taepyeongso Junggu. Fascinated with Gugak and its sound, he was eager to master every single gugak instrument. In 1962, after spending only 2 years in Korea, he had reached a level that allowed him to hold his own Alan Heyman gugak recital.
The first foreigner to play and perform Korean music. I and the other teachers, my teachers at the Kugak Yesu, went to Gwangju and we performed at the theater. And the audience was very surprised and astonished to see a foreigner to perform Korean music, because I was the first foreigner to perform. I wasn't the first foreigner to study Korean music, but I was the first foreigner to perform Korean music. So they were very astonished and surprised.
The Westerners' exceptional love towards gugak started to draw attention from the people, and Heyman received attention wherever he went.
저는 이제 그때 뭐 대학 졸업하고 이제 그럴 때 막 사람들이 다 모였어요. 민속학자. 그런데 헤이만 선생님이 딱 양복 입고 그때 뭐 젊으시니까.
One time, I went to watch the traditional mask performance in my senior year of college. And a good-looking Westerner in a nice suit on the bandstand took out a taepyeongso. I was learning how to play taepyeongso, but virtuoso Heyman was incredible.
프로도 그런 프로가 없는 거야.
He was a pro. I heard he had studied under the Korea's greatest taepyeongso player. That was when I introduced myself to virtuoso Heyman for the first time.
훌륭한 연주를 해주셔서 고맙다고.
Yang Jung-soon, an art researcher of the National Folklore Museum, can still clearly recall Heyman's taepyeongso performance that he encountered for the first time back in his college years. Anyone that knows Heyman, who had played taepyeongso particularly well among other gugak instruments, has at least one memorable episode related to listening to him play the taepyeongso. Jeremy, who is the closest American friend of Heyman and a shamanism scholar, remembers one of these stories.
Many, many people came up to him, especially older Koreans, and bowed to him and shook his hand. The president of the RES introduced him too, said, Alan Heyman's here, and everybody clapped their hands. So wherever I go with him, if it's the National Music Theater or wherever, always the older people come up to him and shake his hand. And, so they remember that he made a great contribution to the Korean music.
Gaining popularity everywhere he went as an American master of taepyeongso, Heyman boarded a plane to the United States in 1964 with Sam Chunri, a performance group composed of a group of gugak artists that he had previously formed. Within the 4 years he had spent in Korea, Heyman was able to put on a gugak performance at New York Carnegie's Hall stage and give out gugak-related lectures at 27 different American universities. Heyman unfolds a faded black and white poster at his apartment and recalls his visit to America.
We made a company called the Samchali, Dancers and Musicians of Korea. It was the first all-star company from Korea. We performed at the Philharmonic Hall in New York. 1974, I published this book in New York on Introduction to Korean Dance called the Samchali Nara.
We are no longer able to hear Heyman's extraordinary taepyeongso and gayagum performances anymore. However, his stories said in a shaking voice, yet with a clear memory of his past, still brings to us the sound of his beautiful performances. Then, what kind of father was Heyman to his family? Heyman's daughter, in her memory of her childhood, remembers her dad as,
I always saw him playing taepyeongso he always went to mountain and maybe once a week and then played taepyeong. So he was very famous in the neighborhood. And then also he taught me how to play kayagum when I was young. It was just arirang. And then I stopped learning it. I always saw him playing kayagum, maybe not komungo, but kayagum and other instruments, 장구, and always listened to the music, Korean traditional music, and he always wanted to go to any events that are related to Korean traditional music. So yeah, gugak was really like the essential part of his life.
A considerate friend and companionable dad, Heyman runs into an unexpected misfortune at a concert in the United States. Mr. Jeremy, a longtime friend and colleague of Alan, feels more sorry for his tragic misfortunes than anybody else.
Did he tell you what happened to him? He went to America with Kim Kun-hwa, the shaman. American Museum of Natural History. They were having a folk arts festival. Then they were invited to New York City to perform at NBC television. And the night before, he had picked up her bag, and he felt something strange in his back. In the morning, when he woke up, he wasn't able to move. And so when Kim Kun-hwa came in, she said, "What are you doing? We have to be there at NBC television. You know, we have an appointment. I can't move." And she said, "What's the matter?" And he explained. And she said, "Do you have any whiskey?" And then she got it and she put 3 black pills in it. And she said, "Drink this." He drank it, and then he could stand up. And you know what that was? That was bare gallbladder. Kim Kun-hwa carried to America. Funny she got through the customs, but she carried for emergency. So it worked, and then some years ago, I don't know how many years ago, his back started bending, and he went to her, and she gave him the pills again, but it didn't help him this time. So his back just is like a prison, kept bending over and closing him in. So he became so small, like old Korean harabaji. That's also a great disappointment because it so interfered with his mobility.
Back of a 2-meter-tall blond gentleman began to gradually bend. His back pain only got worse, and the illness became so serious that he could see only below his knees with his bent back. However, a series of tragic misfortunes could not stop Heyman from his love towards gugak. He was never in full health since then, but crazy about gugak. Heyman threw himself into the task of helping the world to discover gugak. He showed up wherever his hand was needed and began the translation job of introducing gugak in English. His translation work to introduce Korean shamanism, mass performance, traditional dance, and Korean mass dance, traditional instruments, and good Korean traditional performance of exorcism in English carries significant meaning in Korean society.
해만 선생님이 중요하신 분이니까 그런 기여를 하신 분이고 우리 국악을 해야 하는.
He has contributed greatly in introducing gukak to overseas countries. Learning gukak and translating it in English can truly be considered as meaningful work to inform the world of gukak. Alan may not be able to visit different countries to explain gukak in person, but he is introducing and promoting gukak to the world through his translations.
지금도 나는 그런 역할을 하고 있다고 봐요.
Heyman was recently awarded with the President's Award after being credited for his contribution in introducing gugak to the rest of the world. He has also won numerous awards since the 1980s, and his lifelong dedication and love for gugak is underappreciated in the insular Korean gugak industry, where it insists on Korean blood only.
얼마나 한국이 배타적이었습니까? 지금도 그러는데
How exclusive are Koreans? People in the gukak industry can become so shut down when it comes to foreigners doing our music. It is a very unfortunate reality that Koreans learning foreign music is easily acceptable, whereas a foreigner's passion toward our music is often objected to. Within that sad reality, Alan is a pioneering figure who attained the first professional gukak education as a foreigner.
Heyman was an organizer of the gukak performance at Carnegie Hall, a hidden contributor in a celebration event to commemorate the 100-year anniversary of the establishment of the diplomatic ties between Korea and the U.S. The only foreigner who has learned various Korean traditional instruments ranging from gayagum to soljango firsthand. However, he is still left alone even after gaining Korean citizenship in 1995.
I'm just about the only one that keeps regular contact with him of Western people. And so I think as he gets older now, it's more and more difficult for him to leave the house. So that's a big difficulty, is the loneliness, the isolation.
However, his study is still filled up with books that need translation work, stubbornly insisting on introducing gugak to the different parts of the world to the last moment. This as well is his tireless love towards gugak that will never end.
Gugak tone is very beautiful and the sound is very interesting. These days, young people are more interested in music that's very fast and very repetitive, but I think it's not interesting and not beautiful, like the kayagum.
An American man who has had more affection towards gugak than any other Koreans. A man who flew to Korea at a young age of 20 and has devoted his entire life for gugak. Heyman has recently donated his collection of sound resources along with treasured books to the National Gugak Center. His previous gugak-related materials that grew old with the passing of time are now donated for future generations. America-based Korean gugak virtuoso says that he only wishes for younger people's interest in our own sound of gugak. Will he be still missing the sorrowful sound of taepyeongso resonating in the night sky of the battlefields in a strange country from his early 20s?